Wyans tried to hide the rising fear in himself, but did not let up. He clapped his hands loudly to provoke Rex. The dog remained calm. Wyans fixed with his intense gaze, but his growl grew louder. "Oh, a tough guy." What? Sneered Wyans and came even closer. Meanwhile, some had. Onlookers stopped to watch the event, but no one intervened. Under the gaze of the crowd, Wyans exacerbated the situation he raised his foot as. If he wanted to step towards Rex, the growl of the shepherd dog became a deep, threatening rumble. Emily shouted, "Don't you dare!" which Wyans didn't know. Rex was not a dog before he became Emily's guide dog. Rex had as K9. Military dog trained for high-risk operations and prepared for far more dangerous threats to neutralize as this man approached as Wynn's foothandle Rex. Military training, his muscles tensed, his gaze remained directed at the imminent danger. The park became eerily quiet. The atmosphere was charged with tension, while the spectators held their breath and waited to see what would happen. Scornful laughter broke the silence as he lifted his foot still higher, evidently enjoying the drama he had. "Conjure up, Nello's mutt. Show what you've got," he sneered. Emily's grip on Rex's leash became even tighter. Her fingers turned pale with exertion. She could hold the Syrah, impending confrontation, but the charged, threatening era was Syrah. Rex was like a statue of tension, his body tense as a feather, his growl deepened a clear warning to Wyns that he was playing with danger. The small crowd that had gathered watched the scene tensely. Silence, some filmed, others murmured quietly to themselves. Someone should stop him, a woman whispered, but no one took Emily's voice. Broke the tense silence full of despair. "Let us rest. Is not just a dog. He will defend himself." Instead of taking the warning seriously, Winsay only became more brazen. "Defend himself," he sneered. "That's just a big lapdog. Watch out." When he stretched out his foot to Rex, the shepherd dog reacted with amazing agility. He dodged the kick, led a flock. Authoritarian barking sounded through the park and positioned itself seamlessly between Emily and Wyans. His sharp teeth were visible, his eyes fixed on the attacker. This was not a simple reaction of a dog pet, but the targeted response of a trained professional of a guard who was ready to neutralize any threat. He flinched back, impressed by terrifying determination in this fleeting. Wait a minute. Time seemed to stand still. Emily, clutching Rex's leash, felt the tension of his body and the charged vibrations in the air. She felt a change in the atmosphere. Rex murmured, trembling, but the dog paid no attention to her. His gaze remained fixed on Wyns, ready for any further movement. Wyancy also showed a change. The smug grin had disappeared from his face, and a hint of uncertainty gave way to, "What kind of dog is this?" He muttered, his tone of voice changing from mocking to uncertain around her. The audience whispered while smartphones recorded the scene. Parking attendant made his way through the crowd. "Wah pots is going on here?" he asked. Firm, stem-ween, false self-confidence melted under the gaze of the surrounding crowd. Then Rex held his position. His stance made it clear that any further provocation of Wyns would have unpleasant consequences. Emily exhaled, slowly, and Paride felt the tension of the leash ease slightly. Although the threat was still palpable, Wyans took a step back. The hands raised in appeasement calmed down. "I was just a little fun, the dog." Exaggerated, he claimed, but the former self-confidence had disappeared. The parking attendant between Vince and Emily crossed his arms and fixed Vince with a stern look. "They call it fun. Threatening a guide dog is not only irresponsible but also punishable." Emily continued to hold Rex lean tightly in her hands, which were still shaking. Rex remained resolutely standing in front of her, his intense eyes fixed on Wyns. The air was heavy with tension, intensified by the murmuring. The voice of the park ranger was calm, but firm as he continued, "This dog is simply doing his duty to protect her, and it is. Seems like he's doing his job far better than they do, being a decent person," as grin disappeared. Finally, under the weight of the words of the park ranger Rex, low growl. Freckwer stopped, which made Emily touch him gently on the head and whisper, "Good boy," Rex, her voice trembling but full of gratitude. The surrounding crowd was silent. Some filmed the scene with their cell phones, while others whispered quietly to each other. Suddenly an older man stepped. Man in front of the Parnot flashed his voice on his faded military cap, then broke through the murmur. "This is no ordinary dog." His expression was seriously marked by life experience when he pointed directly to Rex. I realized. This attitude, this is a K9. The crowd let out a collective gasp and backward. Even Wiense seemed surprised. Emily looked confused and turned to the man. "What, me?" "She is mine. Guide dog," she said, her hand tighter around the leash, her voice soft murmur. The old man came closer, nodded slowly and deliberately. "He likes." Now her guide dog, his miss. But I bet he used to be on duty, that concentration of that barking. These are instincts that you only see in a trained military dog. The revelation overwhelmed Emily. She knelt next to Rex, her fingers running through his thick fur as she held him. Rex with new eyes, she breathed her voice of amazement and predacia. Disbelief filled them, had always recognized Rex's extraordinary nature, but the depth of his story was an unexpected discovery. The man again spoke, his voice full of awe. Dogs like him are heroes. They were trained for battlefields in order to protect soldiers and neutralize danger. His reaction to this man comes from the fact that he has a Menincore. Potential threat. His eyes hardened briefly as he looked at Vince, who was now clearly. Vince seemed insecure. His self-confident appearance had completely disappeared. Retreated further back, his posture slumped. "I didn't know that," he whispered, his voice barely audible. The ranger stepped closer, his voice firm. "Ignorance does not excuse they. They can be glad that this dog restraint has practiced Rex's posture, relaxed a bit, but his parplay." Watchful eyes remained on Vince to make sure there were no further provocations. Emily, Mapper, exhaled, trembling, her heart racing as she learned the new knowledge about Rex. Processed, the crowd around her began to murmur her in respect. Thick ones fixated on Rex, who in their eyes was no longer just a guide dog, but a brave one. Protector of the Rangers, a mixture of authority and contempt on his face. Turned to Wince. "It's over for her," he ordered sharply, and told Wyans to. Wince hesitated, but his eyes darted nervously between Rex and the Acreolordo. Older man back and forth. The Rex true past had revealed. The crowd began to get louder, and someone called the police. Wyans cursed quietly. His facade of harshness dissolved under the growing attention on Rex. A little more relaxed but still attentive, Vince continued to watch, unyieldingly ready to intervene if he was provoked again to get Emily. Around the scene seemed to whirl chaotically. Rex, a military dog, her theirs. Thoughts circled around the old man's words about combat zones, soldiers and threat. She knelt again next to Rex, her touch softly but trembling as she stroked through his fur. "Rex," she whispered, her voice in a low voice, reverently, as if she were trying to comprehend a part of him that had hitherto been shaven. First had remained hidden. He bowed his head to her, his eyes softened for a moment before they returned to his unwavering gaze. Such loyalty that Emily was overwhelmed by her feelings about who was this dog who had been her trusted companion all these years. The older man came closer again, face serious but friendly. "Ma'am, they should know that dogs like him never really lose training. It's deep inside you, ready to come out when you feel that you're too. They need," and today he believed that they did. Tears filled Emily's eyes as she remembered every situation in which Rex was particularly vigilant, or had been protective, every bark that suddenly stopped her holding. She had always seen him only as a Bury guide dog, but now she realized that he had always been much more. In the meantime, Weinze became more and more uncomfortable. Okay, he murmured, and Narcisse took a step back. "I didn't mean any harm." The parking attendant remained skeptical. "That's not in her decision," he replied sharply. "They have caused enough trouble." Weinze trotted towards the exit, shoulders lowered, while the parking attendant made sure he didn't. Returned, the crowd slowly began to disperse, although some remained. Her eyes were still fixed on Emily and Rex. The older man also remained looking at Rex with a fiat expression of deep respect. When the whispers of the crowd fell silent, Emily sat silently on the bench and stroked Rex's back. "You were always mine. Protector," she whispered, her voice trembling, but I never understood how far you would go to protect me. Rex stayed by her side now, calmly wandering his eyes through the park as if he wanted to make sure that the danger had really disappeared. Was for Emily the park had changed from a quiet retreat to a place where she discovered an unexpected truth that changed her perception of Rex and herself. Forever that evening she sat up on the edge of her simple sofa and stared at Rex, who lay at her feet. The events of the day revolved in her head like hostility. The Tivichon timely intervention of the park ranger, and especially the revelation of Rex's past. Hand hovered over the keyboard of your laptop, unsure of what to look for. Finally the words formed. Military K9 history in her head, and she started in numerous articles and reports to rummage their understanding of Rex's background grew. These dogs were not just trained, they were true warriors, boiling training dangers. To sniff out their pores and squeeze the fung preserve, each of these characteristics mirrored Rex's behavior at this Wirich Siostitore Fragus was. Had he gone through? Who were his comrades? And how was it necessary to see her? Who had experienced a dangerous situation with Gedrex? Emily fulfilled. With pride and sadness, she closed her laptop and slid over to him. On the floor, while stroking his thick fur, she murmured softly, "I've always relied on you, Rex, but now I really understand who you are. You've been through so much, or..." At the sound of her voice, Rex pricked up his ears and snuggled closer to her. For the first time, Emily felt more than only a dependence on him. She felt a deep connection formed by Rex, silent strength, and his unwavering devotion to the closest. Emily turned to the local veterans organization, described the recent events, and asked for information about Rex's past. Woman on the other end of the line promised to investigate. Many retired K9s will be in new roles, for example, as blind or therapy dogs. She explained that there are. They felt a sense of purpose and meaning after their ministry struck the word purpose. Emily took on a whole new meaning for her. Rex had not been assigned to her simply to help her. He had protected her in a way that she only slowly understood, now that the conversation was over. Emily squatted down next to Rex. "Again, we'll find out together," she promised him with a smile. Rex reacted with a slight wag. His calm presence gave her comfort no matter what she said about his. Emily was sure of one thing. Rex was more than her guide dog. He was her protector, her ally, and her hero for a week. After the incident in the park, the mystery of Rex's past still haunted Emily. Every minute of silence seemed the words of the older man on that day. "That's a K9 he's for." Rex had always been extraordinary, but the Kaiolea. She realized how little she actually knew about his former life. Deeply, while she had relied on his guidance, she now felt a deep responsibility for his former life. One afternoon, when Emily is on her way to her usual walk with Rex, her cell phone vibrated. The number was her. Unknown, but she answered immediately. Her heart pounded with anticipation. "Miss Ford, here's Karen from the Veterans Organization." She greeted a reassuring voice. "I did some details about her dog." Found out. Emily took a sharp breath and waited. Excited, Karen revealed the military of her dog corresponds to a retired K9 named Bravo. He served abroad, along with a Gaia dog handler named Sergeant Jake Carter. They have numerous missions in common. Before Bravo retired, the name Bravo clang for Emily strangely, however, caused a shiver in her. Bravo, she repeated. To the name was foreign to her and yet somehow appropriate. Karen continued. "Sergeant Carter retired a few years ago and currently lives in Montana. I can give you his contact details. In case you'd like, he could tell you more about Bravo's time on duty." Emily hastily wrote the information. Trembling on her hands after she hung up, she looked at Rex the Prince, and pulling him lay peacefully at her feet. As always, vigilant. "Bravo," she mummed again. The brought-in name was full of past that she had yet to fully grasp. That evening, Emily was sitting on her sofa, the phone in her hand, and practices what she wanted to say to Sergeant Carter. Nervousness, the thought of possibly painful memories for Cater came over her, made her hesitate. What if he preferred to let the past rest? While she looked at Rex, she wanted to be her reliable protector over all the pigsy. For years she knew that it was her duty to piece together his story. She composed herself, bless a heart, and finally pressed the call button. The phone rang twice before a peat would roll. Deep Rawe voice picked up. "Hello." The sound sent a shiver over Emily's back, but she composed herself. "Hello, is that Sergeant Jake Carter is my name. Emily Ford, and I think I have their former K9. Bravo." A long silence followed, and Emily wondered if the connection was broken then. Jake's voice, surprised and emotional again. "Bravo, really, I could never have thought I'd ever hear from him again." Emily felt tears rising as she heard the emotion in Jake's voice. "He's been with Jake for a few years now. She told me softly that I only recently found out his story. He saved my life in a way I can hardly put into words." Jake took a deep breath. His voice, he trembled. "He saved mine too. Several times than I can count, I have to. At that moment, Emily realized that this was only the beginning of a new chapter. Was not only for you, but also for Bravo, and the man who once Kinkara had been his closest ally the days after their conversation with Sergeant Jake Carrarder Rails. Endless Jake had immediately organized a flight to Ngikambra. Bravo, even though Emily tried to maintain her usual everyday life, penetrated America. Expecting this reunion at any moment with electrical voltage, she wondered how Bravo would react. If he could recognize Jake, this reunion could show the deep bond between. Questions swirled through their minds as they focused on the Karo moving day that lay ahead of her in the afternoon when Jake arrived. Emily stood with Rex in front of her modest apartment. She felt how the Kalea leash trembled slightly in her hand as Rex adjusted his posture as he adjusted her. Feeling nervous, everything will be fine. Rex whispered her words just as much for him. A car drove up as if intended for him, and the sound of a Kalea slamming door. The silence was broken moments later, R's deep voice. Emily's voice sounded full of excitement and nervousness. Emily smiled. Nervous? Yes. I'm Emily, she replied, and with a slight tremor in her voice she pointed to Rex, and that's Bravo at the sound of his old name. Rex's ears twitched attentively. Jake paused, his gaze fixed on the Kassir dog, then he slowly crouched down and stretched out his hand. Hey boy, he murmured. His voice trembled. Do you remember me? Rex remained motionless, kept his muscles tense as the tense seconds passed. Emily's breath until Rex carefully took a step forward to sniff Jake's hand. The change was subtle, but then Rex's tail started wagging and he whimpered. Quiet tears welled up in Jake's eyes as he gently patted the dog on the head. You. Don't you remember? He whispered tenderly as Emily felt the emotion in his voice. She felt her own tears flowing. They began to flow. Had always known that Rex was exceptional, but the deep connection between him and Jake was pichiya, let her appreciation grow even more inside. Jake began to tell stories of their time together in the ministry Bravo was at. Every mission my partner told, he has my life countless times. He was brave, and I never thought I'd ever see him again. Emily listened intently and stroked Rex's fur while Jake was scolded by her experiences. Although the stories were full of dangers and victims, the warmth and awe in the gal. Jake's words about Rex are unmistakable that night as Jake sets out on his way. He knelt down to Rex and looked him in the eye. You now have a miracle. Good life, boy, he said, his voice full of emotion. I had no one. Who cares about you? Emily's heart pulled at his words. Together, thank you for trusting me, she whispered back. Jake straightened up and gave her a little reassuring smile. He's in just the right place while they walk him away. Emily turned to Rex and said, You've been through so much, but now you're at home no matter what happens in the days after Jake's visit, Emily thought. Constantly remembers the stories he tells about Rex, or Bravo as he called him. Fedijor had the reports of his courage in action, his sharp mind under pressure, and its insensitivity in dangerous situations marked the Cheva. Picture of a dog whose experiences went far beyond what the Cheva most people could imagine. This realization filled them with admiration, but also with a touch of sadness every time she touches his fur, or relied on him to cross a street. She wondered how. Very much his devotion was shaped by the hardships of his past. On a quiet afternoon, Emily decided to visit a remote part of the park with Rex, a place she has been doing since her unsettling encounter with Weans. The memories of that day still haunt her, but her perspective had changed. Rex was no longer just her guide dog. He was her protector, a warrior who had placed his trust in her while they were walking along the path. She spoke softly to him. I hope you know how much you mean to me. You've served so many, and yet you choose to stay by my side every day. Rex gently nudged her leg, as if to confirm her words. Emily smiled and sat down on a bench while Rex. At her feet, the park was peaceful. Only the faint rustling of the leaves could be heard for the first time since. For weeks, a deep sense of calm flooded through her, but Emily's thoughts lingered on a sentence Jake had said during his visit. He doesn't forget his training. It's always there. It's waiting. Just she wondered whether Rex might have missed his former life, the adrenaline rush, the danger, the constant feeling of purposefulness on this evening, driven by the desire for more. Understand not only about Rex's past, but also about how she could respect it. She chose Jake's number again. Jake started it when he picked up. I thought about that. What you said, do you think Bravo could be his old life? On the other end of the line, there was a short silence before Jake Kara. Bella, his may have answered in his own way, but dogs like him don't live in the past. They devote themselves to their Jackley. People, and at the moment, Emily, you are his mission. Jake's words last a long time. Conversation in Emily's mind, again, you're his. Mission. Emily had always considered Rex to be her lifeline, her guide, through a world she couldn't see, but now she realized that her connection was not just a dependency, it was reciprocal. She gave Rex a purpose, just as he gave her the confidence to relive life. Embrace their relationship was in every way a partnership on this. In the evening, as Emily sat on the floor next to Rex, she whispered into the silence, I'll show you every single day how much you are loved when Rex. She squeezed, and his warm presence anchored her. In the moment, Emily felt a comica. Incomparable feeling of security. She knew that she didn't care. Which challenges the future might bring would master them together, deepened in the weeks that followed. Emily's understanding of her relationship with Rex, the knowledge of his past, changed her bond. It did not enrich them every time he led them across a street or chia. From danger she thought of the struggles he had endured, not only in action but also in adapting to his new life with her. But one question haunted her. Furthermore, in her nights she really gave him the life he deserved. One morning, while Emily was enjoying her coffee, she came across an article from the Pond. Described the challenges retired military dogs face in adapting to civilian life. He became, like many KN9 had, to struggle with the loss of the strict structure of their training days and showed some signs of restlessness or depression because they lacked a clear purpose when they came to Rex, who lay curled up contentedly at her feet, wondered, Emily, if they might be missing subtle signs of dissatisfaction in him. The thought that Rex might be looking for more sense in his life, she was deeply determined to seek Rex's happiness. Emily began to look for ways to enrich his everyday life. She came across programs designed specifically for retired service dogs that offered activities that could help her. Previous training experiences Emily called a such organization to them. Rex described the background of the person on the phone who, with palpable enthusiasm, We would like to evaluate Rex, the woman said kindly. These sessions should not only keep you active, but also give you a deep feeling. Not attrition of fulfillment, it sounds like Rex could really get out of it. The following week, Emily and Rex arrived at a sprawling facility that was specially designed for the way. Designed for retired military dogs, it was with open fields, obstacle course, and special areas for training sessions as they passed through the gates. Rex's posture changed, his ears pricked up and his cock gently waved a sign of his reawakened vitality. Emily sensed his excitement and began to suspect that this was the missing piece of the puzzle in his new life. Could a trainer greeted you warmly and knelt down to Rex at eye level? That must be Bravo, she said with a smile. Let's see what else he can do. Rex was soon guided through various exercises, tracking agility and tie. Smell detection Emily watched from a nearby bench, her heart filled. Proudly showed Rex abilities that had been hidden until now he moved, with a precision and self-assurance that clearly differs from his everyday behavior. It seemed as if a previously suppressed part of him was now back. Ajin fully came to life after the session. The trainer returned with a Sahithir. Admiring look back. He's incredible, she remarked. It's like he never left the service. Emily felt a mixture of pride and a moving realization about Rex. Unbroken ability. That evening, back in the security of her home, Emily knelt to Rex as she gently stroked his fur. You're just amazing, she whispered with tears in her eyes with emotion. I don't want you to ever lose this part of yourself no matter what. Whatever you need, we'll find out together. Rex leaned against her. His warm presence, a reassuring confirmation for Emily, had the day. Not only shed light on Rex's past, but also on his needs and potential. Rex was not only their guide, but also Bravo, a dog whose story and spirit were far from finished in the weeks after. Rex's assessment at the training center, Emily found a new routine every Saturday. They visited the facility where Rex is working on K9, especially for retired. It was obvious that he was thriving in this environment. He was tracking down smells, mastered obstacle courses, and followed orders with the precision of a much younger dog. Seeing Emily act purposefully filled Emily with pride and made her true Rex appreciate nature even more. An afternoon after, particularly, the trainer took Emily aside in an impressive training session. Is outstanding, she remarked. is not only a retired K9, he is among the best I have ever seen. It is rare to find a dog that is still so. Yella's focused and disciplined. Emily smiled. A slight melancholy settled on her heart. She recognized the joy that Rex had in these hug activities, but she was worried about how to meet his needs while maintaining her. "They think he's really happy?" Emily asked, her voice. The trainer's face became softer for dogs. "How lucky it is to him to have a task, and Emily, you are a part of this." Task later in the evening when Emily sat next to Rex in her cozy living room. She thought about the words of the trainer after Rex rested at her feet. His breath, even his presence calming. As always, she thought of all. What he had given her over the years, his guidance, his protection, his unwavering loyalty. She had always thought that she was dependent on him, but now she understood that this dependency was mutual. "You were always a hero, wasn't?" she murmured, and gently stroked his fur. "Even now you still take care of it." Around me shortly afterwards, Emily received a call from Jake Carter. His voice was warm and welcoming, and they talked for almost an hour about Rex's recent successes, as Emily details. Jake left. "That's the Bravo I know," he said. "But don't forget his most important task is with you. You are now his." Jake's family words hold long after the conversation in Emily's thoughts about Rex. Circumstances may have changed, but his most important mission was to protect the people he loved. Stayed unchanged one quiet evening while walking Emily and Rex at a bench in the park halt, a place that became important a few weeks ago. Why was when Rex's past had come to light when Emily sat on the bench. Sat down, enveloped her in the cool evening air. "You've been through so much," whispered, her voice full of appreciation and yet independent of your past and all that you have experienced. "You have decided to stay by my side. For this I will. Always." Dear Rex seemed to understand her words as he calmly clung to her leg, his firm, calming presence grounding her in this peaceful moment. Emily silently vowed to respect Rex's story as she built a future in which he would feel both fulfilled and loved by Emily. It is a great honor to share her life with such a remarkable companion, a dog who was a warrior, a mentor, and most importantly, her loyal, Leiji she friend.